All right, we've been talking about cell division and mitosis. We've watched a couple videos over parts of a cell, and just to remind ourselves what those cell parts are, we've talked about cell division and why cells need to divide. It's a needed process for reproduction. It's needed for growth in the living things, animals, plants, people, whatever that is alive, and also for repair if you get a cut. Your cells have to divide in order to heal the body. What we're going to do is we're going to take some notes. So if you'll take your brain pot paper and flip it over on the back, what I have done is I've folded it in half, just the long skinny ways, open it back up, and then I drew a line separating the top part from the bottom. So the life cycle of a cell looks something like this. Let's see, at the top I'm going to write life. Zoom in here. Life cycle of a cell. So it looks like this. Most of the cell's most of its life is spent in something called interphase. And I'm just going to draw a line here. 90% of life is something called interphase. And that's just the cell doing its job. So if it is a blood cell, what it's doing is it's carrying oxygen and nutrients throughout the body. It's helping to eliminate the carbon dioxide that builds up in the bloodstream. If it's a bone cell, it is providing structure to the body. If it's a skin cell, it's keeping out germs and dirt, keeping the structure into your bodies. If it's a brain cell, it is it's reading messages from the other parts of your body. It's just doing what it's supposed to do. And then it gets to a part of its life where it grows up and it matures and it needs to divide to create a new cell exactly like the original. So if we're talking about a blood cell, it's going to make new blood cells. If we're talking about bone cells, they're going to make new bone cells. If we're talking about skin cells, they're going to make new skin cells. Skin cells don't divide and then turn into bone cells. Bone cells don't divide and turn into brain cells. They stay the kind of cells that they are. So most of its life, 90% of its life is spent in a stage called interphase. And then there's a small portion of its life, it's really short, and it is called mitosis. Mitosis. That's a small portion of its life, and this is when the cell's nucleus divides. And then the rest of its life is spent in something called cytokinesis. And I'm going to write cytokinesis right here. And I know these are a lot of new terms for us. You'll memorize them. By the end of the week, you'll understand what all of these things are. What happens during cytokinesis is when the cytoplasm divides, and it's just a small portion of the cell's life too. So we have interphase is when the cell spends most of its life. We have mitosis, and that's our focus for this week. It's how that nucleus actually divides and creates two new cells that are exactly the same. They're identical. And then there's a part called cytokinesis, and that's just where the cytoplasm divides to fully form those two new cells. All right, at the bottom of the line, what we're going to do here, underneath like this second part of the page, we're going to split this into 4 sections. So what I'm going to do is if I, let's see, fold it, and I'll just draw some lines right here to split it off into 4 sections. So there's a box, and then here's a box right here. So the first stage of mitosis that I'm going to write down, and it's something that I want you to remember, I'm going to capitalize the P, I'm going to capitalize the M, capitalize the A, capitalize the T. I want you to memorize this. It's called PMAT. It's in a way that you're going to remember the stages of mitosis in order. So the first stage is called prophase. So if you'll write that term down, prophase, and I'm going to zoom in on that section right there. During prophase, which is a stage of mitosis, I'm going to draw a line over here to mitosis so you know that it goes along with it. I'm also using the same color as I wrote mitosis in, so you know that it is a stage of mitosis. We're talking about animal cells today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a big circle, and it's going to represent the animal cell. Now, if I was going to draw the animal cell, I would include the nucleus in the middle. I'd add Golgi bodies, mitochondria, ribosomes. I'd label the cell membrane. I'd add all of the organelles that we've been studying. But what I'm going to do for mitosis is we are going to focus just on the nucleus. So I have the cell membrane out here. That's the outside part, and I'll write that on here. Cell membrane. But then I'm going to enlarge the nucleus. So I'm going to make the nucleus really, really big because that's what we're going to be focused on today. So I'm going to draw the nucleus and just make it huge. Now, you know when we've drawn this before, we don't usually draw the nucleus very big. We draw it small in the middle. But since we need to focus on the nucleus, I have enlarged that so we can focus on just that organelle. All right, so in the nucleus, we have something that are called centrioles. And I'm going to use some different colors now so we can distinguish between what all these organelles are. So centrioles are like long stick-like structures, and there's 2 of them usually in an animal cell. There can be more, but usually there's 2 of them in the cell. And the centrioles, I'm going to label those here. centrioles. The centrioles grow these things called spindle fibers. And in the cell that I'm going to draw, I'm going to say that there's 4 chromosomes. So in order for there to be 4 chromosomes, we're going to draw 4 spindle fibers. All right, so here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I know I'm saying a whole lot of new words today. Just bear with me. When we take the quiz, you're going to be able to use your notes. By the end of next week, this is going to be so easy for you. You're going to be able to draw this all by yourself. All right, so I've got the centrioles. I just drew the spindle fibers, which I want to label those too because you're going to need to know those for the test. These are called spindle fibers. And each spindle fiber holds a chromosome. Now, we talked about chromosomes yesterday. Chromosomes are DNA. They make our bodies look like what they look like, work like they're supposed to work. We get them from our parents. We've got them from the grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and so on and so on. It just makes us like what we look like. So each spindle fiber holds 1 chromosome. So in prophase, the chromosomes are attached to the spindle fibers in a random order. So we make the chromosomes look like X's. So there's a chromosome. There's 1 attached to a spindle fiber. I'm going to put another one right here. Another chromosome attached to this one, and then here's another one here. So they're just randomly on the paper, on the spindle fibers. So I'm going to label the chromosome. Okay? And there's 4 of them in this cell. Now, humans have 46 chromosomes in their cells. I don't want to draw 46 because that's a lot of drawing. So I just made this one smaller. I just made it a 4 chromosomed cell. All right, so this is everything that you have to learn for the stage of prophase. You need to know that we are talking about the nucleus, the centrioles grow the spindle fibers, and then the chromosomes are attached to each spindle fiber. If you learn those 3 terms today, centrioles, chromosomes, and spindle fibers, that's what I need you to know, those 3 things. Okay, I'm going to pause it here. We're going to start a new video to finish our stages.